Welcome back to another episode of the Lender Podcast. I'm Bryce Matheson, and as always, this episode is brought to you by Lender. Lender is a hard money origination and servicing tool, which I'm sure you've heard about by now if you've listened to any other episodes besides this one. But Lender is a tool to help private and hard money lenders with pretty much every aspect of your entire business, from raising capital, originating loans, servicing loans, generating loan documents, tax statements, you name it. It's got borrower portals, investor portals. It really is just a one-stop shop for everything for your lending business. And I haven't really mentioned this yet, but we've actually got some exciting new stuff coming at the beginning of the year, or we're starting to work on things, I should say, at the beginning of the year regarding like some marketing for raising capital, email marketing, CRM type stuff. So I'll keep you apprised of that as that gets closer. Today, we are going to talk about pretty much like a 2024 year recap. And I know a lot of people are mostly, January 1st timeframe, everyone's like 2025, I want to set my goals. I want to like look at the year forward. But I think all too often we don't look at the year in arrears, the year behind that we just left, and think about, did we accomplish the things that we set out to accomplish? What were some of kind of the noteworthy, like big things that happened? And so I briefly just want to take this episode and talk about both like personal stuff that happened this year that's kind of exciting, but also just business-wise, our lending business, obviously, because this is the Lender Podcast, and just kind of see how we did. And obviously, I want to like talk about the goals for this coming year as well, but really just focus on what we did in 2024. So starting out, just more like personal stuff. You guys may or may not care about any of this, but I figured I'll share this anyway. So, January of 2024, I got a CPAP machine. And so if anybody out there is, has sleep apnea, oh my word, it is life-changing. If you sleep like a bear, or you snore, or you have the hardest time waking up in the mornings, or you just don't feel refreshed, wow, that was life-changing. I didn't realize that most people woke up and they felt like this whenever they wake up. And I'm just like, wow. So is it annoying? Yeah, it's not, the most fun thing to like have a mask strapped to your face while you sleep. But the way I feel, the energy, oh my word. And also, like, I don't know why I didn't even think about it more, because both of my parents have a CPAP. I've snored for pretty much my entire life, but highly recommend that if you have any sleep issues. It started out with just my Apple Watch. Actually, I was looking at that, and I was looking at my wife's sleep activity with her Apple Watch, and she had like all these like deep blue bars of sleep, and I had orange all over the place. And apparently I was tossing and turning, and I stopped, breathing and all these different things. So highly, highly recommend. CPAP is amazing. Another noteworthy like personal thing is we finished the biggest renovation that we've ever done in real estate. And that was pretty much the last straw, and kind of another reason why we got into lending, not particularly that deal, but just in general. That was a $185,000 renovation. I mean, quite literally, we rebuilt this entire house from the inside out. It was a very interesting renovation. The entire house was built out of cinder block, like not just the exterior, like the interior walls were built out of cinder block as well. And so it was kind of a nightmare running electrical and plumbing, because we had to drill through these blocks. And then also, it felt like you were in a prison cell. You were in a jail cell because you have cinder block walls. And so we skimmed out the walls with a bunch of 1-bys, and we reframed quite literally the entire house. We re-drywalled it because we didn't want anybody to feel like they were living in a prison cell. That was a massive, massive renovation. Like I said, almost $200,000 renovation. We made a pretty good profit on that as well. In hindsight, we spent way more than I would have liked, but it is what it is, and we made out okay. And anyway, it was a good project. Another noteworthy thing is in May, my family and I, we decided to relocate to Arizona permanently. We didn't actually move in May, but we decided, we're going to do this. And then the catalyst behind that mainly was we've been going to Arizona. We live in Idaho, but we've been going to Arizona for the last 3 winters, I believe. We've had a condo, then we sold that. We had a house now, and we'll typically spend the majority of the winters in Arizona is because the weather is so great. And so we came back to Idaho in May, and there was snow on our front yard when we pulled in, and we're like, oh, okay, that's it. Like, we're done. Idaho is cold about 9 months out of the year. And people, they, especially in Idaho, they're like, wow, the summers are so great. And I think that is true. Like, the weather in the summers are great, but you have to endure 9 months of miserable cold. Like, quite literally, like, we've had snow in June before, and it's just like, what? So we decided, after coming back and still having snow in May, we thought that, we had missed most of that. We're like, no, May is probably a safe bet. It was not a safe bet. And so right then, right there, we're like, why do we live somewhere where we hate the weather 9 months out of the year? And so we decided to do the opposite. So like I said, we didn't actually move in May. We decided to move in May. But we're like, you know what, let's live somewhere where we like 9 months out of the year. And then the 3 months out of the year where it's really, really brutal and hot, we'll just do the reverse snowbird thing, and we'll just go back to Idaho for those 3 months and, escape the 120-degree Arizona heat. So that was a big transition for our family, especially because all of our friends and family are in Idaho. So kind of a big shift for us. My wife and I went to Cabo in June for our anniversary. So that was pretty exciting. Beautiful resort, all inclusive. Went there for 5 days. Just the wife and I, no kids, obviously, and had a blast. Another noteworthy things is we launched Lender in June as well. So, like I said, this is the Lender podcast. We, have our software product for private lenders, and that growth has been amazing. Like, I did not expect to have such good feedback. And obviously there's been, of course there's been hiccups and mistakes and bugs and errors and issues and, anything that comes along with having a business. But the response to that has been outstanding and unbelievable. And I'm so glad that, we started that business. And it was about 3 years in the making, like, of actual development, coding, building, before we launched that in June. So a lot of people think, oh yeah, you started a software company. No, it's a lot more involved than that. We've been working on it, actually building, developing, coding it for 3 years before launching. And now obviously the development is, expedited and scaled exponentially since we've done that, because people have requested new features and there have been bugs and, stuff that has popped up. So a big project, but very, very exciting at the same time. In August, I started posting on social media, Instagram specifically. I've been on YouTube for years now at this point. We've got 30,000 subscribers, I think, on YouTube at this point. But I had kind of dismissed Instagram, not because I didn't see its value, but I just preferred kind of the longer form content. I didn't like the thought of having to post something every single day. It just kind of seemed exhausting. Whereas YouTube, I could post something once a week and, call it a day. But, I honestly can't really remember. Oh, actually I do remember. I was listening to some stuff by Dan Martell, and he was really heavy on Instagram, selling, in the DMs. And so I joined Dan Martell's coaching program, which was really great, by the way. Not a sales pitch by any means, but if you are looking for a mentor or a coach, that was very good. Very pricey, but also Dan is very straight and to the point and brutal and very punchy, which is actually what I really resonate with. And I usually don't beat around the bush. Like, give it to me straight, tell me how it is. Like, I don't need things to be sugar coated, and Dan does exactly that. So been very well. So anyway, all that to say, because of Dan's coaching program, he's very heavy on Instagram. And so we started to post regularly on Instagram. And from August until today, in August, we had around 1,300 followers. We just barely broke 7,000 followers. So very exciting there. Very, very exciting. The growth has been awesome. Again, the community, the outreach has just been great. And I need to do a full podcast episode on social media and how we've been able to use that for marketing, because my content is not directly related to lending, nor do I really want it to be. I'll sprinkle some stuff in there, but lending content specifically does not typically do very well as far as virality on social media. So again, I'll kind of shy away from that for now, but we will do a different podcast episode on that at some point. More like personal related stuff. We had 3 hospital visits this year. 2 were unexpected. We were boating this summer, and my wife was surfing the wake behind. She went over the wake, and the board came back and hit her like right in the forehead and split her face open, and it was a pretty good gash. And luckily, we had that's healed up really really well. It was pretty gruesome, because you're out on the lake and she's bleeding through like 2 or 3 towels. It was anyway pretty traumatic, but we got that. So ER visit there. My wife also had a deviated septum surgery, which again was so great, just being able to breathe. I definitely took that for granted, just being able to breathe my entire life. But she said, wow, this is amazing. I can like breathe through my nostrils. Yeah, it's a pretty great thing. Last hospital visit, my daughter was riding her scooter, and she actually fell off and ended up getting a concussion. So that was a little scary, but everyone's doing well. Everyone's great. But, we hope to bring this number down to 0 for next year. Kind of second to last personal thing, I went to the Inner Circle Mastermind for private lending in Tampa in November. Holy cow, what an incredible experience. Really, really enjoyed that. Just rubbing shoulders with all the, kind of higher level serious lenders in the country. Really, really great. I did a podcast, 2 or 3 episodes, can't remember exactly, my takeaway and my learnings from that specific event. So if you haven't listened to that episode, highly recommend that you go back and listen to that, because I took 4, 5, 6 different pages of notes, and I kind of consolidated it down to my biggest takeaways for that. So check that out. And then last but not least, for personal stuff, we moved to Arizona. So we decided in May. We actually made the jump after Thanksgiving, packed up all our stuff, moved to Arizona. We're here now. It's January 1st, and the weather is 70 degrees outside, and it's absolutely fucking glorious, and I couldn't be more pleased. And I'll look at the cameras in our house back home, and there's 2-3 feet of snow, and I do not miss it whatsoever. So those are the big personal stuff. I'll jump now into the lending side of things, because that's probably what you care more about, not my my personal family stuff. So as far as the loan portfolio goes, this year we originated 34 loans. Really, really pleased with that. And obviously not as high as we would have liked. But baby steps. We're very happy with the growth, really considering that we really went serious on lending 2024. We decided that we're going to slowly transition into lending back in 2022, started to liquidate things, but really 2024 was the first year where we really have hit it hard, started raising capital, doing those things. So 34 loans, I'm pretty pleased with that. Out of that, 34 loans is comprised of $4.25 million in total origination volume, and roughly average loan size of around $125,000. I would like to get that average loan size up, to start doing some bigger deals. They're just more skin on the game, or more meat on the bones, and more skin in the game. Hopefully bring that up to 175 to 200,000 average loan size, but we'll see how that goes. Investor recap: we paid out over $400,000 in interest to investors this year. So wow, that was way more than I expected. That comes out to roughly $34,000 in average monthly earnings to distribute to our investors. And wow, that number really surprised me. I didn't think it was that high. And we raised $1.4 million in total new capital. So we started out the year with 1.6. We're currently sitting just right at $3 million in total under management. I'm really pleased with that number. I really am. Obviously, I'd love to be at $5, $8, $10 million. I think 10 is going to be the goal for the end of the year for 2025. But 1.5 million, I think that's pretty substantial for our overall size. And really, I would say we really didn't hit it hard until March, April was when we really went hard on raising capital. So anyway, very, very pleased with that. Current portfolio, we've got 18 active loans. Like I said, we've got $3 million under management, 17 capital investors. And then I also mentioned already, but I figured I'd re-mention it, as we gained around 6,000 followers on Instagram. So very, very pleased with how we did. Last thing I want to do before kind of wrapping this up is throughout the year, I will take various like notes in my phone, just as like little tidbits or takeaways or life lessons or things that that I've learned over the years. So these may not be super monumental, but I like to see these in summation. So the first thing that I wrote down was there is never a right time. You have to do it. And I have learned that in different aspects of my life. Like I remember kind of like holding off and waiting to have kids because I just felt like we weren't ready, or we held off on doing this, or whatever it is. And the funny thing is, like, you want to prepare to become a parent, or you want to prepare to become a business owner, or you want to prepare to do whatever. And ultimately the thing that's going to prepare you the most is just doing the thing. Like I thought I prepared to be a parent. I didn't know what I was preparing for. I had no idea what I was going to run into. But as soon as I became a parent, then you just kind of adapt. You just do it, and it just happens, and you learn, and you do the best you can. So whether it's having kids, or starting a business, or running a marathon, or whatever it is, there's never a right time. Just do it and start training now, start preparing now. And part of that is just diving in and doing it. So along with that, being cringe is one of the best ways to learn something new. Whether you're learning an instrument or wanting to run, or whatever it is, I like every aspect of everything. Being cringy is like, you just have to be cringy first before you can really do anything great. Whether you're filming content, your first videos, they're going to be cringy. You're going to be horrible on camera. Your editing skills, your music, everything is going to be awful. So just embrace the cringe and do it. So the future will be knowing how to prompt, just like how you can be good at Googling. I think a lot of this goes with like asking the right questions. If you're on, like, if a lot of people will say, how are you? Good. Okay. Like you don't garnish a good answer because your question really sucked. So something that I've noticed or started to say is like, oh wow, you have a little like pep in your step. Like what's really exciting you right now? And that's a way better question than how are you? Good, I'm fine. It's a one word answer. It doesn't like trigger a conversation. So along with Googling or ChatGPT or AI or whatever it is, like the future is going to be how you structure these prompts and these questions. And I think that's going to garnish a lot better result. If you haven't succeeded yet, the harsh reality is that you're probably not good enough, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be. I sort of struggle with this one in the sense that like I have a hard time telling people that you're not that good. You just probably are not as good as you think you are. And if you're not getting the results that you want, you probably suck at the thing, and that is okay. Like I said, that's not to say that you can't get good at that thing, but the world is not stacked against you. The algorithm is not stacked against you. The odds are not stacked against you. It's just that you're not that good. You don't have the skills yet, and that is okay. Working hard is not equal to big rewards. A lot of people think, man, I work so hard. Maybe physically, like, I know ditch diggers that work way harder than I do. They have a much harder physically intensive job. But that doesn't necessarily mean that hard work instantly equates to big reward or high value. There are a lot of people who do very little work and are paid exceptionally well for those things. So do not think that hard work is necessarily correlated with like big reward or big upside. You have to believe in yourself so much that it's borderline delusional. One thing that I'm fairly good at, I believe, is just setting big goals and understanding like big possibilities. I feel like people don't dream big enough. Myself included. Obviously, I'm sure I could dream bigger, but I am like delusionally good at believing in myself and sticking to something for the long haul because I know that I can get there. I think too many people don't believe enough in themselves. But I think to really get to this grand scale of whatever you want to be, like, you do have to be borderline delusional. So be a creator and you won't have to worry about jobs, career, or AI. There's a lot of people out there right now that are freaking out saying, oh, AI is going to take your job. If you are creating, and that's not necessarily just content, that could be writing, that could be blog posts, that could be, it could very well be social media content creation. It could be building tools and software and businesses. As long as you are focused on creating, you do not have to worry about job security, AI taking things over. Like, I just truly believe that deep down in my heart. I just don't think it's going to be a big issue. Quality of life between the very rich and everyone else is drastically shrinking every day. I noticed this around August really is, and of course everyone's noticing this, right? But the cost of everything is skyrocketing. Inflation, groceries, fuel, housing, especially. My goodness, it is like nearly impossible for a lot of new people, young families, young professionals to get into a home. That spread between the rich and the poor is just growing more and more vastly. And so I don't know that I have necessarily like a point or a purpose around that, but the middle class is shrinking. And so we're doing everything we can to not be stuck into that middle gap. Stop sharing your goals, just do them and let the results speak for themselves. There's a story that has always stuck with me. There's a couple and they are walking along a sandy beach, and off in the distance there's an old man, and he's got a bucket, and he's like picking up crabs and throwing the crabs into this bucket. And it's not a big bucket, it's just a normal little size bucket. And the couple, what they do is they walk up to the old man and they said, "Aren't you worried about the crabs escaping the bucket?" And the old man said, "No, I'm not worried about it, because anytime one of the smarter crabs tries to crawl out of the bucket, the other crabs latch onto it and drag it down." And that has been such an interesting like analogy or story for me, just because so often like we have these big goals of grandeur, like what we want to achieve, and we almost get we get a dopamine hit for sharing those goals and saying like, I want to achieve this thing. Or the other thing that drives me crazy is people will start a business, and the first thing that they do is they will go and get business cards, and they'll start a website, and they'll say, "I'm in business. I'm a business owner." But all this is just mental masturbation. That's really all it is like you get this dopamine hit by doing these things and being busy, but you're not really a business owner. You're not doing these things. You haven't sold anything to anybody. So by sharing your goals, all you're doing is you're feeling more accomplished than you really are, because you haven't accomplished anything yet. And so I wrote this down to just say, stop sharing your goals, just do them. Like, go get the six pack, go do whatever your goal is that you want to accomplish, just do it, and the results are going to speak for themselves. But don't fool yourself into thinking that you've accomplished anything before you've actually accomplished it. Stop acting like the victim. I mean, this is plain and simple, like, just stop. Like, especially the people who act like the victim in a circumstance that they've created themselves. Ooh, that drives me so crazy. Like, so many people are just like, "Oh, poor me." Like, quit it. Like, you are the person who can get yourself out of this slump. Like, you set the sails on your own journey. Like, quit acting like a fucking victim. Drives me nuts. It's never been easier to win. The bar is so low. And, I've kind of touched on this already, but like, the bar to mediocrity is so incredibly low. And it just is insane to me that people don't use that to step up. Like, you look at the health standards in the United States, you look at the obesity rates, you look at the credit card levels, like credit card like balances have never been higher. Like, the bar to mediocrity is so incredibly low. And to overcome that and just be like an above average person, you just have to do what you say you're going to do. You just have to watch what you're putting in your mouth. Just don't be a shitty person. Really, that is all that it comes down to. Like, just don't shrink to the status quo. Like, just go a little bit above and beyond. Sometimes, I know this is a stupid example, but I'll go for walks almost every day, pretty much every single day. And there is a shorter route on my walk, which is like a mile. And there's also like a longer route that really is not that much longer, but it's like 1.5 miles. And I'll kind of get to this crossroads in my walk, and I will say, like, am I choosing hard today? And more often than not, the answer is yes. And not because I want to, but because I choose to choose hard. And so, it's, again, stupid example, like 1 mile versus 1.5 miles. It's not that big of a difference. But the mile and a half, really, like at the end of the day, that's an additional 1,000 steps. And it's the difference between, 9,000 steps versus 10,000 steps. And 10,000 steps is my goal. And so in almost every situation, I try to ask myself, like, what is the harder thing? Because more often than not, that's actually the correct path. And we're shying away from the harder thing just because it's harder, not necessarily because that's the path that we should be taking. Two more here. It's better to be respected than to be liked. A lot of people right now really don't like Elon Musk because of whatever he's doing. I'm not sure why. He does, a lot of controversial stuff, but I really like him. I really respect him. He's got big, grand goals. Love him or hate him, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But you can't say that he's not doing crazy cool things with Tesla and SpaceX and interplanetary stuff with Mars. And it's really cool. And I respect the guy. So it's better to be respected than be liked. And the last thing I wrote down, this is number 13. Remember the nights you prayed for the things you have now. And I need to be way better at remembering this. Remember the nights you prayed for the things that you have now. There's another quote that said, you have already achieved goals that you said would make you happy. You have already achieved goals that you said would make you happy. When I get the car, when I get the house, when I get married, when I have kids, when, I remember this was a dumb thing, but I remember when I bought my first house, it was a starter house. It was 1,600 square feet, 4-bedroom, little 2-car garage, nothing, just a little ranch style home, right? And I remember driving through these other neighborhoods and they had a 3-car garage. And I thought to myself, ooh, wouldn't that be so nice? I will be happy. I would be so happy if I could just get that house and I would be content because I had a 3-car garage. I'd have space for more things. And then we built a house with a 3-car garage. And then I said, this would be really nice is if this third bay was double deep, if it extended back the whole width of the entire house. And again, it's just the goalpost keeps moving all the time. But I remember saying this, okay, when I get the house, when I get the 3rd car garage, when I get the extended bay, fast forward to now, we quite literally, our house in Idaho is insane. It's stupidly huge. And I actually want to downsize because it's too big, but there is a 5-car garage and an attached shop. And it's a 40 by 50 attached shop. It's ridiculous. It is so stupid and unnecessary. But it's a 12-car garage, and I remember telling myself when I got that 3-car garage, I would be happy. But now that I have a 12-car garage, am I still happy? No, the goalpost always moves. So again, just another reminder to myself, chill, relax, just be content with what you have because the goalpost always moves. And I now have things that I wish for in the past that I said would make me happy. So anyway, in summation, that is my 2024 year in review. I know that's not specifically just lending, but some personal stuff in there, along with kind of the life lessons that I've pulled out of little tidbits and things here over the year. So take that for what it's worth. If you pulled something from that, great. But of course, I want to do another one of these at the end of 2025, see how we've grown. Because obviously I want to measure my goals and I want to make sure that we are progressing right and not settling. But still, I want to look back and be grateful for the things that we have accomplished in 2024. So that is our 2024 year in review. I'm curious how your 2024 went. Feel free to shoot me an email. You can send an email to podcast@joinlender.com. I love to hear from you. Podcast@joinlender.com. But until next week, we'll catch you. Thanks for listening.